Every gym leader in Kanto is hiding something behind that badge. Some are covering a broken heart, some a war they never left, and one 12-year-old is quietly raising his siblings because his own father ran out on them. By the time you reach the 8th badge, the people guarding the league start looking a lot less trustworthy than the system wants you to believe. Brock. The first boss in the entire Pokemon franchise doesn't even want the job. Every trainer's first real wall is a 15-year-old who took over a gym because his dad quit being a father. And that's not flavor text, that's the actual premise of Pewter City. Brock stands between you and the rest of Kanto with a Geodude at level 12 and an Onix at level 14, and if you pick Charmander, like half the region apparently did, that Onix is still going to out-tank whatever fire you throw at it. Rock only takes half damage from fire, not zero, but half is more than enough when you're a kid with one starter and zero backup plan. Beat it down anyway and you get the Boulder badge and TM34 Bide. Congratulations, you've officially learned that this game is not going to hold your hand. Nothing in the game spells out why a 15-year-old is running a gym solo while raising a house full of younger siblings, but follow the pattern. His father Flint left to become a great trainer and never came back, and Brock had to become the responsible adult in the house before he'd even finished being a kid himself. He didn't choose rock types because he loved a good defensive wall. He chose them because someone had to hold the fort, literally, and he was the only one left standing. And that's the part the games barely touch and the anime blows wide open. Brock doesn't stick around Pewter City. He walks out on the badge, the siblings, the whole operation, just 5 episodes into the very first season, to go travel with some kid from Pallet Town he just met. The gym leader, you're supposed to see as an obstacle, turns out to be the first one desperate to leave his own boss fight behind. Turns out battling was never the dream. Brock wants to be a Pokemon breeder. He's the one cooking meals for the whole party, nursing injured Pokemon back to health, fussing over every scraped knee like a man who spent his teenage years doing exactly that for actual human children. The flirting with every girl he meets routine gets all the memes, but underneath the running gag is a kid who spent his adolescence taking care of everyone else and finally gets a shot at chasing something for himself. So the very first badge in the game isn't really about rock types at all. It's proof that these gyms are built on top of somebody's unfinished life, and Brock just happens to be the one who finally walked away from his. He gets to leave. The next gym leader down the road doesn't have that luxury, not when the thing chasing her isn't a father who left, but a bicycle debt and a grudge that refuses to stay in Cerulean where it belongs. Misty. A 10-year-old girl runs a gym her own family cannot be bothered to show up for, and somehow she is the one who gets called the brat. That is the joke Cerulean City has been running for decades. Misty is the youngest of 4 sisters, and the other 3 treat the gym like a synchronized swimming stage rather than a league institution. Misty is the only one who trains, the only one who battles, the only one who takes the badge seriously. Her team in red and blue is Staryu at level 18 and Starmie at level 21, and beating her hands, You the Cascade badge and TM11 Bubble Beam. Simple on paper. But the games never explain why a preteen is the one holding the fort, while her glamorous siblings are off doing water ballet. The anime fills that gap, and it does it by making her furious about a bicycle. Episode 2, Pikachu fries her bike defending Ash, and Misty spends the next several seasons chasing him down for repayment like it's the only unresolved debt in Kanto. It is a stupid, petty, completely human grudge, and that is exactly why it works. Brock's gym carries the ache of a father who walked out and left him raising 5 kids. Misty's carries something quieter, the sting of being the responsible one in a family that never noticed. She is not guarding water types, she is guarding a household nobody else bothered to run. Then there is the fear. Bug Pokemon reduce her to actual screaming panic repeatedly across seasons, in front of an audience that has already watched her fight gym battles with a straight face. A gym leader who commands a Starmie without blinking will absolutely lose it over a single Caterpie. That contradiction is not a flaw in the writing, it is the entire point of her. The badge on her gym plaque says authority. The girl underneath it has a bike she never got repaid for and a phobia she cannot control. And somehow, both of those things are more memorable than the badge itself. Ask casual fans to name a gym leader and most say Misty before they say anyone with a higher badge number. That is not an accident of nostalgia. It is because the anime spent years treating her as a lead character first and an obstacle second, which no other gym leader in Kanto gets. She battles you, then she travels with you, argues with you, grows up on screen next to you. The league's ladder quietly depends on people like her, family members who inherit a job nobody groomed them for and make it work through sheer stubbornness. Misty's baggage is a wrecked bike and a girl fighting to be taken seriously in a family that won't take anything seriously. That is survivable. It is almost sweet once you squint. But the next gym belongs to someone whose baggage did not come from a sibling's neglect. it came from a battlefield he never fully left, and Cerulean's pettiest grudge is about to look like nothing at all. Lieutenant Surge. A grown man tells 10-year-old children he electrocuted people in a war, and the game just moves on like he asked about the weather. That is Vermilion City's gym leader. Not a quirky electric nerd, not a gadget guy. A veteran who says, flat out, that he used electric Pokemon in combat, calls himself the Lightning American, and never once softens the sentence for the audience. Brock was tired. Misty was petty. Surge is the first gym leader who sounds like he has actually seen something out there, something the game never bothers to name. The battle itself backs up the resume. His Raichu sits at level 24, evolved, overleveled, and built to end things fast, no wasted turns, and no room for a slow start. Beat him, and you walk away with the Thunder, Badge, and TM24 Thunderbolt, one of the best moves you'll carry for the rest of the game. But getting to him is its own small war. His gym hides the path behind trash cans, and not just one switch. You need 2 consecutive correct bins before the floor even lets you near him. It is the first gym that punishes guessing instead of rewarding it. It is the first one that genuinely feels like it wants you to fail before it lets you win. That is not an accident. It is the same pattern the earlier gyms already set, a leader's wound becoming the gym's architecture, except this time the wound is not a broken bike or an absent father. It is somebody who never fully stood down from a battlefield, and instead of processing it, built a maze out of that instinct and made kids solve it for a badge. The anime pushes the theme even further than the games dare to. Surge's Raichu does not just beat Ash's Pikachu, it dismantles it, and the loss is brutal enough to trigger an entire episode of Ash wondering if evolution is the only path to strength. Surge's whole philosophy is right there in that fight. Bigger, evolved, overwhelming force wins, full stop, no exceptions, and no apologies. Then Pikachu beats Raichu anyway, unevolved, smaller, and faster, using tactics instead of tonnage. The show spends an entire arc proving the soldier wrong in his own specialty, and he never really gets a rebuttal. There is a real, if thin, thread hiding in that localization choice. Nothing in canon spells it out directly, but follow it anyway. A character who names himself after a specific nation in a world otherwise built entirely from fictional regions is a strange crack in the wall. It is one of the only moments the Pokemon world seems to admit real countries might exist just outside the frame, like someone forgot to paint over a corner of the map. None of that gets explained. None of it gets a follow-up gym or a therapist NPC. The League just lets a war veteran run children through a switch puzzle in a naval port town and hands out a badge when he loses. No debrief, no questions asked. Surge weaponized his life into a battlefield of a gym, but the next leader turns her private world into something almost opposite. A walled space where the fight is guarded by a business built on looking good rather than winning ugly. Rika, she will not fight you. Not because you are underleveled, not because her gym is closed, but because she genuinely does not like you as a person. And that is a completely valid reason to deny a badge in Celadon City. That is a strange amount of power to hand one teenager with a flower shop. Every other leader up to this point fights because fighting is the job. Erica treats the job as optional, a favor she extends to people who pass a vibe check first. On paper, she is exactly what you expect from gym leader number 4. Erica runs the Celadon gym, she specializes in grass types, and her team in red and blue is a Vileplume and a Victory Bell, both at level 29, backed by a Tangela at level 24. Beat her, and you walk out with the Rainbow Badge and TM21 Mega Drain, which is a fitting reward from a woman who drains the energy out of every interaction she doesn't want to have. The gym itself sells the character before she says a word. It is built like a greenhouse crossed with a traditional Japanese garden, staffed entirely by female trainers and gated behind a guard who will not let you in until the story decides you have earned it. Surge made you fight your way through his own trauma dressed up as an electric fence. Erica just makes you wait outside like you showed up to a party too early. Away from the battlefield, she runs a perfume shop, and that single detail explains everything else. The flowers, the scents, the whole aesthetic of the gym. It is not a random type theme somebody assigned her, it is her actual business, ported directly into the League's badge system with zero adjustment. Nobody built her a battlefield, she just let trainers into her workplace. The anime pushes that pettiness even further. Ash insults her perfume, and Erica simply refuses to battle him. Full stop, no rematch clause. It takes Team Rocket setting her gym on fire for her to finally see something in him worth respecting, and only then does she reconsider. A woman who won't fight over a bad opinion on fragrance will run into a burning building to save what she built. That is not a contradiction. That is just who she is when the stakes get real instead of personal. It also lines up with something people have noticed for years about Celadon. The all-female trainer roster, the locked door, the specific femininity of the whole setup. It reads like Game Freak testing out a very particular kind of social framing on one gym and then never fully committing to it again anywhere else in Kanto. Nothing in the game states that outright, but follow the pattern and it holds up better than most fan theories do. Fans still argue about what to make of her. Some see the perfume and the flowers and call it a lazy, girly stereotype slapped onto grass-type Pokemon. Others call Celadon one of the most atmospheric, memorable locations in the entire region, Gardenal. Both things can be true at once, and honestly, that tension is more interesting than a gym everyone agrees on. What actually matters is what Erica proves about the league itself. Surge turned his gym into a war zone because nobody ever made him process being a soldier. Erica turned hers into a storefront because nobody made her separate her business from her badge. 2 leaders, 2 completely different filters for who gets to challenge them, and somehow the same organization signed off on both. She hides her gym behind beauty and a polite gate, but the next leader hides his behind something you can't even see and treats it not as a weapon of last resort, but as the whole point. Koji. You can't see the walls in Koga's gym, and that's the entire point. Every other gym up to this one at least lets you look at the puzzle. Koga's is different. You walk into Fuchsia City and the floor turns into a maze of invisible barriers, and you're stuck bumping into empty air until you feel out a path that isn't marked anywhere. That's not a level design accident, that's a ninja telling you, before you even see his face, that he wins by making himself impossible to read. The team backs it up, coughing, muck, and wheezing, sitting in the low to mid-40s, none of them fast, none of them hitting especially hard. What they do instead is poison you, stall you, wear you down while you're busy swinging at something that barely flinches. Beat him, and you get the Soul Badge and TM06 Toxic, arguably the most quietly devastating status move in the entire series. Koga isn't trying to outmuscle you, he's trying to outlast you. That alone makes him the first boss who fights dirty on purpose. Erica's gym leaked a hobby, a girl who fell asleep among her own flowers. Koga's leaks a philosophy, and it's a much colder one. Hide, poison, wait. He's not a wall you break through. He's a slow leak you don't notice until you're already losing, and then the league does something it hasn't done for anyone else on this ladder. It promotes him. By the time Gold and Silver roll around, Koga isn't guarding a city gym anymore. He's sitting in the Elite Four, one rung below the top of the entire region's hierarchy. Think about what that actually means. Out of every gym leader in Kanto, the one the league chose to elevate is the one whose entire identity is concealment and misdirection. Not the guy with the strongest raw power, not the one who plays fair. The ninja, the one built around invisible walls and hidden agendas, gets handed a permanent seat closer to the throne. Nothing in the game states outright that the league values deception, but follow where the pattern points. A teenager grieving his father gets a badge and stays put. A girl chasing heartbreak gets a badge and stays put. A man whose whole toolkit is stealth and poison gets a badge and then gets promoted. If the ladder up to the champion runs through people who are supposed to represent the region's best, Koga's climb quietly proves that hidden agendas aren't just tolerated on the way up, they're rewarded. That should bother you more than it probably does. Koga wins by making himself impossible to see, which is unsettling enough on its own. But the next leader waiting up that same ladder doesn't need to hide anywhere at all. She doesn't need invisible walls or poison gas or misdirection. She just needs to look inside your head, rearrange what's there, and hand you back a version of yourself that does exactly what she wants. Sabrina. In the anime, she can turn a human being into a doll, a piece of horror the games never touch at all. No warning label, no plot twist in Saffron City itself, just a woman whose power, on screen at least, is strong enough to erase a personality. The battle itself explains why nobody in-game ever stops her either way. Sabrina fields Kadabra at level 38, Mr. Mime at level 37, Venomoth at level 38, and an Alakazam at level 43, and in the original games that lineup is closer to a boss fight than a gym battle. Psychic-type moves in Generation 1 have almost no reliable counter. Bug types are supposed to check them and mostly can't. Ghost types are supposed to hard counter them, and thanks to a coding error, do exactly nothing, their attacks quietly failing against a type they should destroy. Win anyway, and you get the Marsh Badge and TM46 Psywave, which feels like a small reward for surviving what amounts to the hardest fight in the region. Koga hid poison behind a curtain of secrecy the league never pulled back. Sabrina doesn't hide anything, she just wins, openly, with power nobody can check, and the league hands her a badge for it anyway. The anime pushes that same power somewhere the games never dared to go. Sabrina reads minds without asking permission, she speaks directly into people's heads, and she keeps a small doll-like girl beside her at all times, a silent, unsettling child who traps people who wander too close, a psychic creation rather than a normal pet. Nothing in the show states outright that the doll is a literal piece of Sabrina split off from herself, but follow the pattern of a woman whose power grew faster than she could handle it. And the doll reads like exactly that kind of damage given a shape. Two versions of one presence, standing in the same room, neither one fully at peace. That's the cost nobody in Saffron City ever asked her to pay. A kid who wanted to laugh, who wanted a normal life, got power instead, and the power ate the rest of her. It takes a literal ghost to fix it. Ash brings a haunter into her life, a Pokemon whose entire personality is mischief and laughter. And it's that laughter, not a battle, that finally cracks Sabrina's cold shell and starts pulling her back together. Not a rival, not a trainer stronger than her. A joke delivered by a ghost succeeds where raw power never could. Sit with what that means for the ladder you're climbing. The league isn't testing whether its gym leaders are stable, or safe, or even entirely in control of themselves. It's testing whether they're strong. Sabrina passes that test so completely that a badge slot exists for a woman whose own anime portrayal flirts with genuine horror, and nobody in charge has ever asked if that's a problem. Sabrina's gym tests whether you can survive overwhelming power aimed straight at you. The next one tests something else entirely. Whether you're clever enough to even earn the right to fight, locked behind riddles and buried under a building, hiding a secret far worse than anything psychic. Blaine. You do not get to fight Blaine. You have to earn the right to find him first. His gym sits locked on Cinnabar Island until you clear out the mansion next door, and that mansion is not flavor text. It is the ruined lab where scientists spliced a fossilized Pokemon cells into something new, wrote it all down in journals, and then abandoned the building when it clearly went wrong. Beating the 7th gym leader in Kanto means walking through that wreckage first, journals and all, before you ever see a badge. Sabrina already proved the ladder does not check who holds power before handing them a badge. Blaine proves something worse. The ladder is not just ignoring the region's secrets, it is built directly on top of them, brick by brick, badge by badge. Once you actually reach him, Blaine plays it cerebral. His gym runs on riddles, correct answers, let you skip entire trainer battles, and the framing is explicit. This badge tests your brain before it ever tests your team. His squad backs up the Persuni just as hard. Growlithe at level 42, Ponyta at level 40, Rapidash at level 42, and an Arcanine at level 47 that hits like a furnace with legs. Win, and you get the Volcano Badge and TM38 Fire Blast, one of the hardest hitting moves available in the entire game at that point. The anime leans into the same image over and over. Blaine shows up serious, lab-coated, philosophical, framed against volcanic rock like Cinnabar itself is part of his personality. Smart, detached. A scientist who happens to also throw fire for a living. That detachment is exactly what makes the mansion so unsettling in hindsight. Nothing in the game states Blaine had a hand in the experiments buried a few hundred feet from his own front door. But follow the pattern anyway, because it lines up too well to ignore. He is the one gym leader whose entire challenge is physically inseparable from a facility built to manufacture a Pokemon from scratch, and he built his own gym's identity around intellect, research, and control, the exact same traits that experiment required from start to finish. Nobody forced him to live next to a graveyard of failed science. He just did, and he never left. And somewhere under that island is a person too easy to forget once you are 3 riddles deep and half a badge away from Fire Blast. Someone wrote those mansion journals expecting nobody would ever read them out loud. Someone lost control of what they built and just walked away, leaving the failure sealed inside a house for a kid with 6 Pokemon to stumble through completely alone. That is the 7th badge, not a boss fight. A crime scene with a quiz attached to the front door. The league calls this the legitimate path to becoming champion. Clear the mansion, solve the riddles, beat the fire types, collect your badge like everything before it was just training. But if the road to badge number 7 runs straight through a lab that manufactured monsters, the league already knew exactly what kind of region it was building its ladder on top of. Blaine makes you dig through the region's buried secrets to earn 1 badge, but the final gym is the secret, run by a man wearing the league's uniform in one hand and holding the region's crime syndicate in the other, Giovanni. The 8th badge in Kanto is not a reward for beating the best trainer the league has to offer. It is proof that the league's best trainer was a crime boss the entire time. Giovanni runs the Viridian City Gym, the final stop on the ladder, and he does it with a ground-type team that hits harder than anything before it. Rhyhorn, Dugtrio, Nidoqueen, Nidoking, and Rhydon. All sitting in the mid-40s, standing between you and the Earth Badge and TM27 Fisher. On paper, it is just the last exam. In practice, it is the region handing its final seal of approval to the same man who has spent the entire game building a criminal empire out of stolen Pokemon and terrified civilians. Because Giovanni is not just a gym leader who happens to share a name with the Team Rocket boss. He is the Team Rocket boss. Full stop. The only gym leader in Kanto who doubles as the head of the region's main criminal organization, and nobody in the league ever seems to notice, question, or care. Think about what that actually means for everyone you fought to get here. The soldier at the Cinnabar volcano who never left his war, the girl chasing a boy on a bicycle through a city with no bike shop, a brother raising his siblings alone in a gym full of ghosts. Every single one of them was a private life quietly bleeding into an official title, and you were told that was just flavor. Giovanni is the moment you realize it was never flavor. It was the entire design. The anime doubles down on this without blinking. Giovanni sits in shadowed executive rooms, barking orders at Jesse and James like a mob boss running a Tuesday morning meeting, and then the games cut straight back to him standing in a gym, badge in hand, ready to certify challengers as league worthy. 2 uniforms, 1 man, 0 separation between them. And here is the part that should genuinely bother you. Nothing in the games explicitly states the league investigated him, but look at the pattern they built around him. He is placed as the literal last rung of the official ladder, the man every challenger is funneled toward with no gatekeeper above him. No one above him means no one ever vetted him. The league was not compromised by Team Rocket. The league and Team Rocket were the same structure, wearing 2 different name tags, then he wins the argument without even fighting for it. You beat him, you take the badge, and he simply walks. No arrest, no trial, no replacement gym leader waiting in the wings. Viridian sits empty because the system that was supposed to police its own top rank has no idea how to punish someone who was never really separate from it in the first place. You didn't clean up Kanto by beating Giovanni, you just got a receipt proving the summit was rotten the whole time you were climbing toward it. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.